Yeah? Okay, okay. There we go. Now the audio's working. I'll just plug the camera back in. The camera's not working? Oh my god. No. Okay, hold on. Hi. We did it. Hooray. Okay, cool. I don't know why. So, as I was saying, that you guys probably couldn't hear in the slightest, I'm tired. It's just one of those days where I've been wanting to go back to bed ever since I got out of bed, but, you know, it's the way it goes. I did finish the tails, which I can show you guys in a minute. They didn't turn out quite as well as I would have hoped, but they are an improvement from the normal tails, and I know exactly why they didn't turn out, and it was because of the shape I did, which I care more about the shape I was doing than I do about the wagging, you know? I'd rather that it actually work not work, but that it actually looks like the tail I want it to look like and be like that rather than have a tail that wags, you know? So it wasn't perfect, but they do work a little bit. Honestly though, at some point I'm probably going to switch the gore patches out when I have time, probably after MCFC. Because they're kind of over here in the pile of completed parts. We got our tails. They're a little skrunkly from sitting in the pile of parts. But they do have their silicone cores. So they do wag fairly decently. Like, I'm barely moving, and they've got a good bit of wiggle to them, all things considered. So, you know. Which is better than a normal tail. But the reason it doesn't wag super well is because of the shape, right? The tail is this very vertical drop, which of course you guys can't really see that well, but it is this very vertical drop shape, whereas most wagger tails, in order to get them to function, sit more out from the body, right? So like the base would sit against the body like this, and the tail would swoop outwards. I have it designed where it sits against the body and it goes down, which is what I prefer, because I don't like when my tail sticks out 7 miles behind me, because then I'm guaranteed to whack shit. I could modify this to where it sits like that. It would be actually fairly easy to do, to adjust this angle, so that way the tail sits like this from the body. But I don't want to, because I prefer it like this shape. So they do wag a little bit better than a normal tail would. And then here's one with the belt attached. So they do wag a little bit better, but it's not a significant enough difference for me to like or care about for these tails in particular. Definitely a good learning curve though for the silicone core. But like I said, I think in the future at some point I'm going to swap out the gore patches for the cores with gore patches, normal gore patches for hidden belt loops. But for right now, that's what we're dealing with. So those are done, and we're moving on to the feet paws, which I do already have. You're in the way, buddy. I do already have all of the bottoms for the feet cut out. They're very furry from Bingus, because she just attaches herself to everything. And now I'm working on stitching the lining onto the shoes, because the way I put shoes in my feet paws are always polyfill. If they don't have shoes, they're considered the adjustable style sock paw, where it's like a slipper, you put it on, and what makes it adjustable is that you can access through a zipper all of the polyfill inside of the foot paw. So if you want to make it fit smaller feet more easily, you would put in more polyfill so it's a bit more firm. And if you want it to fit larger feet, you would put in less polyfill so it's not too firm. It does have its limits. For example, these size feet paws that I'm making, my classic Digi feet paws, for sock style really only fit down to about a women's 8. Smaller than that and you're gonna have loosey-goosey feet. That's what I know from personal experience as someone who has a women's 6.5. So, which it can be done, it's just not as secure of a fit. And honestly, they look kind of like clown shoes on you otherwise. So it's definitely better to do my new, what I call my plantigrade feet paws, which really are the same as my Digi feet paws, except they are smaller. So they, instead of being able to fit up to a men's 13, I believe, men's 15 without shoes, it fits a men's 13 shoe inside. This is a men's 8.5. So the length on the feet paws is shorter, but everything else stayed the same. It doesn't affect anything as far as whether or not the suit's padded or not, but I find that the shorter foot length looks much nicer on plantigrade suits because the normal digigrade feet are really long to accommodate the shoes, and to fit, they fit better with the padding on bodysuits. Because I find that if your toes are really short, they kind of get oversight they get overlooked by the thigh padding a lot. So you gotta have proportional like feet length and toe size to your body padding, which since most of my body padding is pretty consistently sized because, you know, you're following a shape, pattern, idea for leg shape pretty consistently. There's very little variation in the overall size of padding, even between people that are my size versus someone who's 6 foot something, you know, because it's all proportional to the person and the suit itself. The only difference might be like spacing, right? If they're particularly tall, they might have longer thigh padding, not so much thicker, but elongated. Hi, hello baby. Hello baby. Oh yeah. What is this? What you got going on here? Yeah? Okay. You decided right now is time for the brain scratches. You're a little skrunkly. You need to go brushing tonight. Yeah, you need to go brushing before bed. Yeah. You got a couple tangles going on. Alright. Can you go lay down, please? Can I help you? He's like, right now is my cuddle time, mother. Pervert. Get out of here. Go. Skedaddle. He's not leaving. But anywho's, so feet paw length, it is important both for the person's shoe size versus the suit style. Since we're doing digi suits, hi, hello, can I help you? You're lucky you're cute. Get out of here. Go lay down. He acts like he's never loved every time I turn the camera on. He's looking for sympathy points. Don't give them to him. We went out multiple times today and ran around together. Yes, we did. You almost broke a freaking leg doing it, you little psychopath. Would you fuck off? God. I love you and all, but jeez. Good lord, buddy. So all of my feet paws have a polyfill core, which means that they all need lining of some sort. And since I don't need to access these shoes, because I do have a separate pattern for when shoelaces need to be accessed, that is actually thanks to Phonetic, the red and black suit I did a couple years ago now, I think, actually, yeah. It's been a while. It's been a few years since I made that suit. I don't have my scissors. Hold on, I gotta find a pair of scissors. I think they're out in the over there. Found them. All right. It was something that he'd requested for his suit, was to be able to access the laces on his shoes because he had to wear a very particular set of shoes. Or at least he had a preference for a particular set of shoes. A lot of people do. Which I also personally have a preference for shoes that I wear. I've been wearing the same pair of shoes for the last 15 years. Not quite 15. But at least the last 10. Because I just really like those shoes. They're non-slip, they got the memory foam, you know, it's great. So whenever one of those pairs dies, I just buy a new one of the exact same pair. To the point that the last time I bought them, I specifically bought a second backup pair. That's besides the point. So I do have a pattern that will allow you to access the entirety of the shoe, so that way you can adjust the lacing. But since we're not doing that, because these don't have laces, we just need to be able to get our foot into the shoe. We don't care about the rest of it. So this lining I'm going to stitch around the cuff of the shoe, and then it will be stitched onto the fur, and you'll just straight into the shoe. Problem solved. Personally, I like to leave these little tabs on the inside, so that way you can access them without having to open the feet paws. Because sometimes you get your foot in there, and even though it's all the way in there, it just feels wrong. So it's nice to be able to pull on that tab and adjust stuff if you need to. That rough, huh, Bingle? So that's what we're working with. I can actually show you what I'm talking about. Oops, ooh, I almost took out your face, bud. That's why you can't lay right there. That's why I said go lay down and not lay right where my wheels turn. Move. So these are my shoes, which these are not actually laces. These are just the elastic, you know, cheap bullcrap stuff. I do like this brand of shoe. They're fairly cheap and they're pretty comfortable. They do have the memory foam in the bottom, which is a big thing for me because I find that makes shoes the most comfortable, is when they have the nice memory foam in the bottom. I think I spent $20 on each pair of these, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, so this essentially just creates a fully enclosed lining to the inside of the foot. I'm a few seconds behind, so I can't tell how well you guys can actually see that. Oh, you can see it just fine. So, what you can't really see is that the tabs are, in fact, on the inside here of the lining. And they are fully accessible. Because, again, sometimes your foot just get in there and it's not comfy. Hello, hello. Very different answers, understand. But I was curious if I had any suggestions for a material to mimic shark skin. My husband is good with 3F printers, so I was planning on like covering it with foam and clay. Been told it's too foam clay, but I've been told it's too brittle. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend foam clay. You're good, you're good. As far as like when you say materials, so to mimic shark skin, so honestly, I would try to keep your base to either a 3D printed resin or foam base, because those are things that we all know work. But you could cover it, right? So whatever your base is made out of, if you do a foam base and whatnot, they do make synthetic leathers that I think, like vinyl, I think would work actually really well for what you're trying to do. So you could pattern on top of it using a faux leather or vinyl fabric. And then you could use whatever kind of base you wanted underneath without having to worry about like textures of your base material, you know? So then you can make a PLA head base or a foam cast base or a carved upholstery foam base even, and then just use faux leather for that shark skin texture and look. Yep, you should be able to just glue it straight on. For the best look, you'd want to sew if you can. Just because that helps hide any seams and stuff like that, and it helps prevent wrinkles. So it would essentially be the same as making a normal fursuit, where you would pattern out wherever your color changes are, and you would stitch those seams, all that. Since it's not a fabric with a pile on it, you would be more likely to see the seams. You could get away with doing the drape method and just stretching and pulling, seeing as a lot of faux leather and vinyls, because faux leather is often a type of vinyl, is a four-way stretch fabric, much like this inner color on his ears is. Let me see if I can show you. So, this fabric here is actually a metallic vinyl, which is very smooth, but I'd say it feels, you know, like shark skin or similar to it. I have pet a few sharks in my life, so yes, it's very pretty. I love the metallics. It looks way better in person. My camera does not do it justice. But it is a 4-way stretch, so you could stretch this direction, you stretch this direction, it stretches in all directions. Some stretch more than others. This metallic in particular does not stretch that much because of the coating. That makes it shiny. But it is a 4-way stretch, so I think with a large enough swatch of fabric, you could get a really good stretch out of it. So you could probably do the drape method with some 4-way stretch vinyl or similar materials. I recommend going on to Big Z Fabrics website. They have a lot of fabrics. They have a really, really large selection of like specialty fabrics, so you could probably find what you're looking for. I do also recommend though. Yeah. I also recommend ordering swatches. Yeah. Ad break. Ad break. Everybody loves being stuck in jail. Ooh, thread. Yeah. Brain. I'm gonna wait for the ad break so I can give you your warning. But I like the 4-way stretch fabrics. They're real shiny. Yeah. Right. I think a lot of people just don't know that he exists. I don't think Jeff the Land Shark is a particularly popular character. Especially in the aspect of like costuming. I don't think people... I think a lot of times things that aren't like canines or felines, a lot of people look at and go, oh, well, that's too hard to do. That's not possible to do. So a lot of people just don't do it. Yeah, that would be a partial. Depending on who you ask, that could be called a mini partial. There's a lot of different preferences on what... Yeah, I know, you're good. I know there was an ad. I was trying to wait for the ad to come back. I was more just blabbing to myself than anything. But yeah, that would be a mini partial. If you do order from Big Z, this is the important thing I'm telling you right now. It's very important. If you order from Big Z, order a swatch first. 9 times out of 10, the colors are not what they look like online, and you definitely want that swatch. I went through 3 separate fabrics before I finally got the blue I wanted. It's surprising, because like online, that really nice blue metallic looked white. It did not look blue at all online, so definitely order your swatches. The nice thing is their swatches are cheap, so it's not too big of an expense to order a swatch and see if you like it. Which is really nice. It's like, I think $2 and it's free shipping. Yeah. Oh, yes. That's what this fabric, the lining fabric, is from. I made my own custom design, so I got it from Spoonflower, and it is not cheap. It is so not cheap. But ordering a swatch from Big Z is cheaper than ordering a swatch from Spoonflower, I can tell you that. Very nice to order a swatch from them. But definitely do that before you order fabric. 2 yards of fabric from Big Z, because I've done that many times. Yeah. Everybody's raising their prices. It's so expensive for any kind of fabric these days. It's silly. Which, like, I get why a lot of it's happening. It still sucks, though. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one I recommend a lot for, like, your more obscure materials. Sir, what are you doing over there? You good? Come here. Come here. Are you good? Yeah, you good? Huffing and puffing, good lord. Are you dying? Do I need to Heimlich you? No? Okay. How could I do the eyes, like make them blink like how sharks blink? Oh, that's a good question. I've seen a lot of puppeting tutorials. So my first thought would be to get like Christmas ornaments, like the clear Christmas ornaments, and then maybe lightly scuff the inside for that more semi-transparent kind of look. Right, I was gonna say that's the big thing, is how you're actually doing your vision in the first place. But then I've seen like a lot of puppeters where it does the blinking motion, but since our shark eyelids kind of go more like this, you would just rotate that whole mechanic, so then it would blink. But yeah, a lot of fursuit making is kind of a give and take when it comes to things like vision and breathing. Write that down, write that down. Yes. It's a lot of give and take, I found, because like a lot of people like the suits that have a lot of cheek shape and, you know, very expressive faces and stuff like that. But I find that when you add more of that bulk, like brow lines, right? People like to add super thick brow lines or give them like aggressive expressions, which is cool looking. But at the end of the day, the more shape you build up around your eyes and the further apart you set your eyes, the less you're going to be able to see. I am personally a sucker for suits I can actually see out of. I would much rather be able to see out of the suit than have it look like, say, a West Customs or More for Less kind of shapy face, you know? So I personally go for the closer set eyes with a lot of big eyes that I can see out of, and then a lot of good breathing. So that's why I will never personally wear a realistic style suit, because God knows, props to them, they're blind as fuck. But I could never stand it. I could never stand being that blind. I'm blind enough as it is. So it's a lot of give and take with what you can and can't do in a suit. How much do you value seeing versus doing the cool thing that looks cool, you know? That's most of how fursuit making goes. Give me your questions! I love answering questions. Tell me. But yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of small details that go into it that it's more personal preference, like lining. I only recently started lining my fursuit heads because it took me forever to figure out how. But with how my heads are built, you're not touching the foam on the inside anyway most of the time. Like 90% of the time, you're not touching the foam. You're just touching the head strap that is lined. So I would argue that that's more by personal preference. Do Bing Bong? Fuck yeah, Bing Bong! Need to make it collapsible for a flight. So, are we talking like as a suit or as a plush? Because I already have ideas for if it's as a plush. But if we're talking as like a suit, that gives me different ideas. A suit, okay, so when you say a Bing Bong suit, I quite literally am picturing, like, you know those inflatable dinosaur costumes? Do that. Like, ooh, okay, that's an even better idea, because then you could do like a hoop skirt type deal. So you could do the leggings with like a hoop frame with the fabric over top, and then that would collapse vertically. I don't know how well that would fold for a flight, but I'm sure you could do it. Yes. Very much like that. You could also do, if you do it plush, so if you do polyfill stuffing, like if you do a plush style base, so you could do like pattern out your shape, right? So instead of doing a hoop, you just do 2 layers of fabric that are stitched occasionally, kind of like a quilt, and then stuff it so it makes that round shape that you want. Then you could fold it up and vacuum seal it. You could put it in a vacuum seal bag for a flight. I wouldn't recommend leaving it in there because that can leave creases on your fabric and then you'd have to iron it and stuff like that. But that could also be another way. I don't know how much easier or better that would look than a hoop skirt kind of style thing. But it would probably be easier to fit in a suitcase. It all just depends on how big it ends up being and what you can and can't do with the materials. Lots of trial and error, I feel like, with that one. But yes, fucking bring ball. But with a lot of fursuits, you end up hand washing them. A lot of people use what's called the little green method, where you take a little green carpet cleaner and you will do a run through with water and laundry detergent, generally something gentler like 7th generation and stuff. I find that most of the time, your regular bleach-free, like Tide, stuff like that, I find that stuff's usually safe, but it's best to do a spot test before cleaning with anything new. And then you kind of just go and, clean it. Buddy, this is why I tell you not to lay behind the chair. I'm sorry, did I get your tail? Oh, I know it. Big baby. Is April a good enough time frame? That is a specific question. So that is one of those questions where, like, the only answer is it depends. Because, like, right now, I'm making 2 full suits in the span of about 2 months. Which for me is pretty... Wow, that voice crack was awful. For me is pretty, on par with what I usually do. I usually do a full suit in about a month. But I also know that there's other suit makers that take well over a year or 2 years to complete a single full suit. So it depends on your personal speed and what exactly, like what kind of details you're doing, how detailed you're going with them. Just a lot of things like that in particular, as far as how long it will actually take you and if April's a good time. It also matters, like, what your general obligations are in life. Like, for me, this is all I do. That's not true. I do other things, but this is my full-time job. I work about 70 hours a week doing this stuff, so I have the time to get stuff done in 2 months. Whereas other people who do this and then also work 40 hours somewhere else, or have kids, or, I love that. But, like, it matters, like, I have dogs, I don't have children, I don't have any other real obligations aside from doctor's appointments, stuff like that to go to. So, I'm not in school at the moment. I've already got my 2 degrees, we're good. So if you're someone who's working full-time and also having a full-time job on top of trying to complete a suit of any sort, it might be a tight squeeze for you. It might not be. Who knows? Like, yes, I say it's something that I actually tripped and fell to, so to speak. Did not plan on this to be my career, but here we are. This is what I'm doing now. I actually started making fursuits around 2019, 2020-ish. Not because of the pandemic, surprisingly. I actually worked throughout the entire pandemic because both my jobs were considered essential at the time. So I was working 2 jobs, and I was a full-time college student, and decided I was going to start doing fursuits on top of that. And somehow I was making just as many fursuits then as I do now. Which boggles my mind to this day. Fucking 18-year-old me was a psychopath. I don't know what I was on. Drugs, probably. Not really. I don't do drugs. But the drugs of being 18. Teens are different. Being young is different. Like, I don't have that in me anymore. I really don't. Hi, hello, can I help you, mister? This is Forrest. He is a big baby. You also can't really see him because my camera sucks, and he's black, so he just kind of turns into a void. But he is a standard poodle, and he is like a year old, so he's still kind of a puppy. And he's the biggest baby who wants attention all the time. All the time. Mwah. Go away, please. Go lay down. Your sister's behaving. Go lay down. Don't let him fool you. He's just being sad for the sake of getting attention. was telling you about those quad suits. Oh, yes! Oh goodness, what's their name? I know exactly who you're talking about because I've seen them as well, and they're so cool. I would love to make a quad suit at some point, but they are also another one of those really impractical suit styles. Like, it's insane. I wish. They've made some really... Because I think it's, oh, goodness. Beast Cub. Beast Cub is the really popular quad suit maker. And they make beautiful stuff. Yes! Yeah, Beast Cub. They're so good. They're really popular for their quad suits. Which I believe they still make them. Yeah, it's a pretty... So, I don't know how much you know about furries. But I'd argue that despite having thousands of people that do fursuits and are in the community, it's very, very tight-knit. And, like, it's kind of like other arts, right? Where people get popular for whatever it is they do. But also they have a distinct style, right? Whoo! They might not then, I don't know. It's been a hot minute since I've checked out anything but from them, you know? But, like, there's Elkcraft, who does, like, the Sparkle Dog suits. Like... There definitely is a lot of drama surrounding furries. Like, every time I talk out in public, and they're like, oh, what do you do for work? And I'm like, oh, I'm a fursuit maker. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where I live, a lot of people don't even know what furries are. And the ones that do go, oh, isn't that kink thing? Or isn't that the litter boxes in schools? And I gotta sit here and be like, no. No. And then I get to explain it, which, I mean, I don't mind talking about it, you know? Like, I'm perfectly fine with telling people what I do and explaining and answering all the questions in the world. So there's been multiple times where I've been at the dentist and I'm like, oh yeah, so like, they're like, oh, you're the one that makes the costumes, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, I thought that was a kink thing. I'm like, no, actually, like, for some, sure, but it's no different than cosplay. Like, there's cosplayers that, you know, find it hot, but most part, it's just people dressing up for fun, like, and that's usually the answer I give is like, oh, it's just like cosplay, except it's animals. And they're like, oh, cosplay, and suddenly everyone's on board. Like, it's so funny that the second you bring up cosplay, because it's, I remember when cosplay used to be the taboo thing, where it used to be kind of adjacent to furry, where people are like, oh, that's really weird that you're dressing up in a Halloween costume when it's not Halloween. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like the mix up between furries and Therians. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you think you're an animal? And it's like, no, I just like dressing up in the costumes. And it's like, I don't believe anything about like the more spiritual aspects of that could go along with it. That's very much a Therian thing. But even then, Therians don't legitimately believe they are currently animals. Like, it's, I don't know where that came from, but it's very much a thing that people think a lot. Yup, which that's the thing, yeah, like I've seen some suits that go, oh, what was the most expensive? Like, I see suits regularly that go for well over 10 grand. Like, and there's very much a battle right now of keeping it with artists, and yeah, different than kin. There's a lot of overlap between like Therians and other kin, and I do not know the half of it, so not the ads. No. We're always getting lost in the ads, but I'm dying. Dying. You cannot inhale Coke. Coke is not air. 40 seconds of ads, but you know, I can only be annoyed at myself because I'm the one that sets up the ad frequency. It's all my fault that we keep getting interrupted by ads. I could click skip ad. Right? I know, that's... Yes! That was my big thing. That was my big thing starting out, too. Was finding where to, like, figure out how to do things. Which I actually, that's how I stumbled into it, was Mugiwara on YouTube. Their feet paw tutorial showed up on my recommended on YouTube, and I was like, that looks interesting, so I clicked on it and I started watching, and I was like, I don't actually know how to pronounce it, so I'm just gonna type it. They are one of the, I don't want to say old school, but they're definitely one of like the classic YouTube furry suit makers. That they have a lot of tutorials. So does Nefertiti. She has a lot of tutorials as well for head bases and stuff. But I was watching Mugiwara's feet paw video, and I was like, I can't do that. I could do that. I can't do that. And I was like, fuck it, I'll try. And then I was hooked. I made one set of shitty feet paws, decided to make an entire mini partial, and I've been doing it since. And I can tell you right now, my first couple fursuits look nowhere near as good as my current fursuits. So that's how I got into suit making, completely by accident. Yes! Give me the questions! We got questions all day, don't worry. We're here until my laptop dies because I was too lazy to bring the charger in here, so... However long my laptop lasts, which... We're like halfway through my laptop battery, so probably not too much longer. Oh, how long have I been streaming? Like 40 minutes? So we got like another half an hour of stream. I'm not good at streaming if you haven't noticed. But yes, exactly. So I have my persona is Patch the Coyote, which if I pop over on OBS, I can kind of show you. This little guy in the corner, his name is Patch. And he's just a little guy, you know. And he's pretty... Ooh! There we go. He's pretty much all yellow. And he's the ramen noodle furry, is what people call me. And that also happened by mistake. He was originally supposed to be a pre-made. He was supposed to be a husky. He was supposed to have a curly tail and be a fall-themed husky. Let me see if I can't bring in an image of... Yes, add an image. Okay, browse. Of his original suit. Because I keep the pictures of my fursuits. I do have his original head still. Canine. Do I have... There we go. This guy. And he was not the best suit ever. Like, he was honestly... He was kind of shit. He's falling apart, quite literally, these days. He's only about... Because I made him in 2020, 2021? I forget which. So he's less than 5 years old. I don't have his bodysuit anymore, because very silly. Yeah. You know, I do the same thing, so I get it. But... Woo! Rabbit with the soul and lemon shirt. Ooh, that sounds fun! Also, I'm a sucker for sharks, honestly. Like, there's so many cute... I like, the teeny tiny lantern sharks. They're so adorable. They're just so little. But anywho, so this was his first suit that I ever made, and I frequently got, is that a chicken? So I started wearing a ramen noodle sweater on top of him, and then suddenly people could tell that he was a dog. Apparently you couldn't tell before. I don't know. Don't ask me. But now we have his 2.0. Oh god, the photo's huge. Hold on. I'm still. Oh my god. This picture got so big. Hold on, we're getting there. You can see part of him. Oh, and we're getting there. Ta-da! There we go. And this is his current 3/4 suit. Yep. Both of the fursuits, because I specialize in crochet personally. I grew up crocheting, so I was like, I gotta make a fursuit with crochet. So both of his original and his 2.0 have crochet detail. Like there's a bridge down his nose, and the hair, the orange, it's all... Anything that's not that bright yellow is crocheted, aside from the ramen noodle sweater. So that's his current suit, and I'd argue it's a huge improvement over the original. Which is fun. But... So now we're working on the twin suits, which is for me and my fiance. It's actually not a commission. It's been a while since I've had a chance to make a suit for myself, but yes! I've seen a couple people do, yes, that is how you spell it. It's just one of those weird words. That's how it's supposed to be spelled, don't worry. Crotcheted is how you spell it. It's dumb. It's French. It's French. I've seen a couple full suits that were crocheted, like entirely top to bottom crocheted. They usually do it with blanket yarn because it's bulkier, but that makes it so heavy. And I'm like, yeah. But I have a lot of fun making suits that have like weird materials. Yeah, crotcheted. So like I have a poodle pre-made that I still have for sale. That has tulle for the hair poofs. So it's all tulle, and then it's got like tulle palms and a little tulle poof on his tail. And then I have a skull dog that I currently have up for sale that has like fake plants. So they kind of like, I forget what the name of the plant is. I still have pieces of the faux plant left over. Well, come here, you. Give me a chunk. There we go. I bought this when it was on sale right before Joann's died. Rip Joann's. But it's just got like these kind of string type plants stitched all through the fur, which was really convenient, is that there is a hole in the base of each of these strands. So it was really easy to sew them in. Worked out in my favor. But, and then I took those feathery kind of plants that they sell at like, they were selling them at Joann's, but they also have them at Michael's now, the kind of feathery type stuff. So I used those to make a cockatiel suit to do the crest, and they turned out really well. And I think it's fun because like you could tilt and lean, and they would kind of flop around a bit. How would you recommend I do the paws? I mean, it depends, right? Because you could just do... There's different ways. There's so many options. Oh my goodness, because I'm trying to think. I'm looking up a picture just for my brain hole right now. Because like you could go with a bit more like a flipper style, but if you want them to kind of look more, because like he's got like little bappers, you know. So it's like you could go with a regular flipper style, like a seal fursuit might, or you could use that same lycra spandex, you know, whatever material you're using for the head, and just do a normal 4-fingered hand paw pattern. So you could do it where there's a lot of free ones you can find online. I forget. Oh, what's the name? You could also do 5-finger paws if you prefer to have 5 fingers. I think his design is pretty flexible, it looks like, but he looks like he's got 4 little toe beans. So you could just stitch the bottom fabric and the top fabric and not actually have to stitch any toe beans, I wouldn't think. Because he doesn't really have toe beans. Right. Which that's the thing. Like, but that kind of also works in your favor, because that means you get to kind of pick and choose which ones you like the most, you know? And then also, if you can figure it out, finger escapes are a lifesaver. I definitely recommend them, which is why I put them in my personal suits. They are a pain in the butt. So it's like you could do it without beans, you could do it with the beans, you could do 4-finger, 5-finger, whatever your preference is, really. But there's a lot of free... Who is it? I know, I love finger escapes. And they're... I don't want to say easy to do, but there's several different ways to do them. Especially depending on whether or not you're lining your hands and how you're lining your hands, if you are. Patterns. Who are you? Well, I just want to look at the picture. Matrices has a lot of... They're a bit more old school in style. Like, they're very, like, classic 90s fursuit for a lot of their stuff. But they have a lot of free patterns. Yes! Oh, that's gonna be so cute. They have a lot of free patterns and, like, tutorials on how to do a lot of things. Okay, good. The feet, again, there's also a lot of ways you could go about it. Personally, I would go for, like, a classic footpaw style. Whether or not you put beans on the bottom or not is up to you. I know some people, it depends on how you want it to look, right? Because you could just get a pair of shoes, put a little bit of foam for some toes, and then pattern your fabric over that, and bam, you've got feet that's just shoes. The ones I'm making right now are going to be huge, because they're actually going on a base, and they're going to have, like, stuff sewn over top. Ooh, good lord, Forrest. He likes to stand right in my way. So this is, like, the bottom of my feet paws. And then the shoe will go on here with the lining. And then this is actually the fur for the toes, because I need them to be bigger to be proportional. I'm doing feetsies right now. So then there'll be something like this. Of course, they won't look as shitty because they'll be fully stuffed and stuff, but then we'll have... You can't really see it because my lighting is garbage. He's got really dark toes, but then we'll have a full foot paw going. So that's a way to do it. You could also carve a foam base and pattern off of that. That's how I used to do it. That's actually how I got the pattern I use these days for my plush paws. It's because I used to do the patterned one, the foam base. I've seen some sock style ones where it's literally just like knee-high socks with some foam glued on. Like, there's so many options. I don't recommend that if you're going to, like, cons and stuff with it, though, because rocks. Rocks hurt. Yeah! Ooh! I've heard of the squishy foamy filament. I've also heard that it's really expensive and a pain in the butt to use. I personally use, is it actually squishy foamy filament, or is it TPU? Because TPU isn't foam, but it is squishy. And I love me some TPU. I've used that quite a bit, and I've used PLA quite a bit. That's literally all I've used, is PLA and TPU. It does what I need. But, because I have printed a couple TPU head bases. With his electron. That's how I feel. Like, if I can find an excuse to get it for work, I am 100% gonna fiddle around and see what I can do with it, you know? So, like, I got the 3D printer. Like, I specifically just bought some yellow filament because I really want to do a suit with yellow eyes. Like a cat suit or something. But, so I got some yellow PLA, and they turned out really cute, and they do glow under blacklight a little bit, which is fun. I didn't think it was going to do that. But that's fun. So I've got, you can't see it from here, but I do have my big boy 3D printer, and then I have my Brother embroidery machine that does a huge, you did ask, because we were talking about, well, I don't know. It is TPU, okay. So there is a filament that is actually foam, like made, like it's a upholstery foam material. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people use the TPU, and that definitely works for feet paws. I've seen a lot of people use it for feet paws lately. You were asking about the eyes because it was like the secondary, the blicky blicky. We were talking about the puppeting for that. But yeah, like there's been a lot of advancements in fursuit, like eyeball technology lately. There's been some that do like electronics where like they look around like where you look using like an eye tracker. But more ads. No. Maybe. Is there more ads or is it lying to me? It just says ad starting soon. It's probably lying to me. Anywho's. But yeah, so I've got yeah, that's exactly I mean, honestly, the ads do not make me money. I just stream because it's fun. And it honestly gets me off my ass because there's been a lot of days lately where I'm like, I don't really feel like sewing, you know? Like I'm so tired. I'm just gonna lay here. And then I start potatoing on the couch for hours on end. I have been streaming all year. Not super consistently. God damn it, there's the ad. I told you it was coming. I knew it. Yeah. And that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Like I'm already doing it anyway. I might as well record it. Good lord. Hold on, I gotta get through. There we go. But two birds with one stone kind of thing. Yes. Exactly. Yes. It's been shit lately. The world has been very crazy. Everything's been nuts, and it's every other day I just feel like I'm hearing some sort of news. Some sort of something is whatever. Exactly. Right, like it doesn't help that the AI whole thing is going on right now. Because they're like, oh, well, why would I bother when I could just make AI do it? Like, exactly. And that's where there's a push and pull with a lot of furries. Like, there's some very gatekeepy furries that, like, you can't even ask them what kind of clippers they use to shave fur because they're like, oh, well, it's trade secrets. And I'm like, it's clippers. You still have to have the skill to use them properly. Like, I don't care if people ask me what kind of clippers I'm using or what materials I use. It takes so much work and time to make my shit. I don't care if they make it themselves or not. Like, yes, like, there's a lot of people that just slap stuff together with AI and only AI, and it drives me nuts because they're like, oh, well, I'm an artist, and all they do is write in a prompt and call it art, you know? But using AI to learn and actually do things is separate from just using AI itself and calling it art, you know? Which, it doesn't help that AI is getting better, so it makes it easier for people to scam. There's a lot of scammers out there. Like, right as soon as, like, AI started getting big, we had multiple reports of websites that were advertising full suits for $500 or something like that. And all of the images were AI. The entire website was AI generated, and they were just stealing people's money because people don't know any better, you know? They don't know that that's not actually a fursuit, and that the style is inconsistent, or that, you know, it's AI generated. So they're like, yeah, I want that, and then they get scammed. But there's also, like, the issue of dyeing arts and stuff like that. Like, stuff like glass blowing is considered, like, a dyeing art because it's a dyeing medium because nobody knows how to do it. But then a lot of these art mediums, if you go to any of the few professionals left that do know how to do it and ask them to teach you, they look at you like you're insane, because why would they teach you? That's their job security, you know? And it's like, that's not the point, though. Like, yes! Dude, glass blowing looks so fun. I wish I got a chance to do it. I did not get a chance to do it. I have, however, had a chance to do some ceramics in college, and that was fun. I actually did 3 whole semesters of ceramics. And I did get a little bit screwed over in my 3rd semester because the teacher got arrested? Question mark? I'm not sure if he actually got arrested. I would hope he got arrested. There was some CP charges against him. A lot, actually. So he was fired, like, 2 weeks into the semester, and then suddenly I didn't have a teacher, and there was no replacement for me because... yeah. So, basically, there was only actually 2 ceramic classes available. The 3rd ceramic class was essentially an agreement between you and a professor to get you additional experience with whatever that art was, right? So... Sorry, he was making very suspicious throwy-uppy sounds. He's not throwy-uppy, though. So it's like, you kind of get to advance more, even though there's not additional classes. Which also means that I was the only person in the class, because it was just... it was on an individual basis. So there was nobody to, like, grade my work when he was fired. And I was like, what do I do? So then the head of the department was just like, I guess I'm your teacher now? I guess? And I'm like, oh. So then instead of doing the sculptural work that I wanted to do, I had to do a lot more wheel work. And sculpting whistles. Which made me very mad, because I wanted to do, like, full, like, sculptures out of clay. Like, I had ideas, man. I was gonna do... One of the ideas I had was going to be a realistic crow, or at least a somewhat stylized crow, in takeoff. So it was gonna be, like, partially outstretched wings, possibly only on the 1 foot, about to take off. And I was gonna make that thing, like... a good 2 feet, you know? A massive fucking thing. For our kilns, it was massive anyway, because our kilns were not big. And it's like, I also wanted to do, like, a cowboy dinosaur thing. I was gonna make a Gallimimus, because I saw... Oh, who's that artist on Instagram? There is an artist on Instagram, and I forget his name, but he frequently does, like, sketches and line arts of, like, dinosaurs in historical settings. So there's, like, D&D kind of esque dinosaurs, and there's, like, cowboy dinosaurs, and that's what he was doing at the time, was these sketches of these dinosaurs with cowboys riding them, right? So they had, like, brittles and saddles and stuff like that, and I was like, that is cool. What if I had, like, a little Gallimimus sculpture, something smaller, right? But... a Gallimimus with a little saddle and a little brindle tied up to a fence post. So it would just kind of be like a little scene, like a little diorama kind of deal. And it, right? So I was like, I'm going to do that. And then he was like, you should do some whistles. And I was like, I hate you so much. I had so many big ideas and they were squeezed. So, but I did, in my first semester for ceramics, one of the requirements was to make a bust. It was supposed to be of yourself that represents you in some way. And I don't know about anybody else, but I absolutely hate making art of myself. Cannot stand it. And I don't know what represents me. Who am I? I don't know. So I was like, can I do Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's? And they were like, I guess. Does that represent you? I was like, if I say it does, will you let me? And he's like, go for it. I've gotten to play the game The Isle. I have not. I need to look into it because I've heard it's good, but I know nothing about it. Right? So that's exactly what I did. What I ended up doing was, 'cause it was essentially just a bust from the shoulders up, so it was to scale. In fact, I don't know if I have pictures on my laptop of Springtrap. Dang it. Hold on. No, I don't have pictures on my laptop. I also don't have him anymore because he weighed about 50 pounds. So what I did was I made a bust out of one of the pre-made face bases that they had. I dropped it halfway through, so it was a little smushed, and that was on accident. But that was William Afton. So the mask, Springtrap's mask, actually came apart and came off of William Afton's bust, which was the best thing I've ever done in my life. I was really proud of that, and it was the end of semester, so I had exactly 2 weeks to get the entire thing done from scratch, which means I did not get to glaze it. But I did get to paint it with acrylic paints. And we got him finished. He had all of his wires and his holes and, like, purple guy stuff going on, like... And that, like, you could actually see purple guy's eyes through the mask. Like, it was a whole thing. I was like, I'm a fucking genius. And that was before I got into fursuit making, mind you. That was pre-furry me. The before times. Turns out it was just in me. But yeah, so that was one of the more memorable things I did with ceramics in college. And it was a lot of fun. I do hear that there are some colleges starting to offer fursuit classes for semesters, like fursuit making courses, which I think would be dope if they did that here at my community colleges, but they probably won't. I did recently apply for a part-time position at a community college, because I would like to, you know, do art classes as a teacher. Downside, a lot of them require you to have like a bachelor's, and I do not have a bachelor's. I have 2 associates, which some would argue is the same thing. We're hoping, but I didn't know that because nowhere on the listing did it say, hey, you have to have at least a bachelor's. I just got to the end of the application, the very last page was like, upload a transcript of your education above a bachelor's, and I'm like, I'm going to upload this Word document that says, like, basically an IOU of a Word document, and said, I don't have that. The listing didn't say it was required. I'm applying anyway. Thank you. And then I applied for the job. So, I put my application in anyway, because they wouldn't let me apply without it. So I just put in the Word document. I'm hoping my audacity woos them and I get an interview, but I doubt it. I doubt it will. I did almost get a job at the local college, the other local college, to be their mascot, because they recently got a mascot. But problem number 1, I am short. I am only 5 feet tall, and most mascots are not made for people shorter than 5'5". At least not the college-style mascots. And then they were like, how would you portray our character? And I'm like, that's not for me to determine. That is literally your guys' job, is to tell me the character and how to portray them, and I go do that. Like, that's how that works. It's your character. It's my job to portray it the way you want it portrayed. Like, I don't know. Yay! Do it. You could do the thing. But no, a lot of college and like sports mascots they're made of shitty materials, just in general. They cost about as much as a fursuit does. Like, I don't think people realize that colleges are spending thousands of dollars on those mascots that look like shit. But they are made of, like, cheaper materials, cheaper, like, fleece and furs, like, cheap furs. And then they're just kind of thrown onto a generic head base with a mostly adjustable bodysuit, you know? Like, and it's nothing fancy, right? There's not a whole lot of padding usually. If it is, it's built in. It's generally not great. So now, granted, if you get to, like, the big name colleges, they might be a bit higher quality, but, like, your local college mascot is definitely made out of stuff that Joann's wouldn't even sell. Like, so it's like, it's not exactly high quality stuff. And they expect a lot of performers to generally be on the taller side. So suits are generally made to fit bigger, not smaller. And when you're as small as I am, one size fits all does not fit you. Unfortunately. Oh no, my son, he's dead. At least he's behaving. He's okay. But, so I ended up not going to that interview because of the amount of ridiculous questions. They didn't seem like they knew what they wanted. So I'm like, oh well. Still working on the feats, don't worry. I am fine with being derailed, trust me. You're keeping me so entertained right now. You don't even know. But I'm working on sewing the lining onto these shoes before I glue them onto the feet paw bases. And then they'll get glued onto the feet paw bases. These are... So I do adjustable style feet paws, generally speaking. Granted, they're built-in shoes, so these ones won't be adjustable. But they are plush. So they don't have a foam core, but they will have polyfill. So there will be the shoe with the lining. And then there'll be the shape of the foot over top, and then there'll be the polyfill between the fur and the shoe. And then the backs of them get zippers, so you can take it out, and then you have a husk of a foot paw, and you can throw it in the washing machine, or the tub, or use a little green, I don't really care. But it makes it dry faster so it doesn't grow mold, which is nice. Especially when you have shoes. If you've ever washed a pair of shoes, you'll know they take for fucking ever to dry. You don't exactly want them covered in 16 pounds of polyfill and fabric and still not dry. So yeah. Built-in shoes are nice until you have to clean them. Then they're a pain in the butt. But honestly, the suits I'm currently working on, as far as cleaning goes, are going to be a pain in the butt on the whole. Trust me, I am never annoyed by getting derailed or having people ask me questions. I am down for it. Like, I love answering questions. I answer so many questions all the time. So, like, you know, brain holes trying to put sentences together. Ooh, that's so cute! The Spidey suits. And the boots stretch it out so much. Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. Shoes are... They are a problem. But... I like it better than just the foam base, because even with thicker foam bases, like, my first problem is that I, for years, have been using half-inch EVA, which is fine, and it's affordable in comparison, but this doesn't exactly do a whole lot when you're outside. It feels fine walking around on the con floor, but when you go outside and you step on some rocks, you can feel every single pebble through this. It is not super thick. So it's not great for sock style, but it still works perfectly for shoes. So we're just going to glue the shoes onto these and call it good. So these days, for sock style, I use 3/4 inch, and those seem to do much, much better. But Like, the foam itself is pretty comfy. It's just you can feel everything on the ground through them, which is not comfy. Because it's the same stuff they make, like, the gym mats and stuff out of, you know? So it is squishy comfy. But that's also why I'm using it for these feet, because... So, that heavily depends. Rain actually generally doesn't hurt fursuits. Usually the only thing you have to worry about with rain on fursuits is if your eyes are not waterproofed. If you paint them with acrylic and you don't seal them, or if you use buckram that's like stiffened with a starch, water will make the buckram start getting all soft and floppy, and it will make your acrylic paint peel, and thus your eyes are not waterproof. But usually the rest of the suit, rain is not going to hurt it. Rain's not going to hurt fabric. Rain's not going to hurt 3D printed stuff. And it's not like you're drowning it, so it should be fine. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely more rigid. I'd argue that it's similar to silicone, except that it doesn't stretch, which is ironic, because if you look at TPU on its own, the filament stretches. Like, I think I actually... Ow! Is this the TPU? Yeah. So this actually right here is a roll of TPU from my rack. And if you pull the filament, it's stretchy. It stretches real goodly like. But a lot of times I find that unlike silicone, right, where if you stretch it, it kind of goes with it. If you squish it, it kind of smooshes, right? TPU don't smoosh. TPU collapses. TPU will just fold in on itself. So it's not... Which is why I originally bought TPU. A hydrate. Well, this is the closest I'm getting to a hydrate. Because water is yucky to me. But thank you for the hydrate. I do like me some Coke. Yes, very similar to the texture of Crocs. Crocs, I'd argue, are still a bit more foamy than TPU is. TPU is a bit more plasticky in texture, but as far as like how it functions and moves is very similar to Crocs. That's a good way to describe it. Genius. Can I help you, sir? Go bug your dad. You gotta go potty. Oh, good lord, the dog's gotta pee. Okay. We're gonna have to do a small break, and I will go let the dogs out to the bathroom. What kind of like coating do you recommend for the TPU? The TPU should be fine. You shouldn't need a coating for it. Unless you're painting directly on it, you shouldn't need a coating. If you are painting on it, I would recommend getting like a clear coat spray paint. And doing a couple layers of that to waterproof it. It's gonna be me. I'm gonna let the dogs out. Be right back. And I return. Alright, I forgot what we were talking about. But, all of these are sewn in now. So we have all these. Which means now we get to do the fun thing. Of hot gluing them onto shit. That's always the best part. Hot gluing shit and using the box cutter. There's too many shoes on my desk. That's my problem. Don't forget, thank you for the follow. Oh, that would have been so scary if you couldn't find me again. We would have been so lonely over here. Alright, there we go. Oh, there's so much bingus on it. I have a lab mix, and she sheds so much. Woof, 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 woof. Alright. Wait. We get started with these two. And hot glue gun. Did I leave? Gosh dang it, I left it out and about somewhere again. I don't know where. Oh. It's behind you. Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, Sarah's, she is a 65, 70 pound lab mix. So she's pretty freaking big. She's really tall. Sheds worse than a lab. I didn't know you could shed worse than labs. She manages, and her fur gets into everything all the time. Like, all the time. It's a pain in my butt. Especially, you know, when you're working with black fur and you see all of the white fur on top of it. She's just a big baby, though. She just turned 11, so she's old. Yeah, that's exactly why you can't see the black fur. But I didn't prep these earlier. Putting paw pads on there. These ones I will not. And that's just because I'm on a little bit of a time crunch, and personally, I like the outdoor style better than the indoor because it's one less thing to worry about keeping clean, and grippies. So, yes, exactly like that. So this just gives the hot glue a little bit more of a way to actually grip into the EVA, which I am now realizing I don't actually want to use hot glue, and I'm a dumbass. And now I've run into a problem of, I just remembered that what I actually wanted to use was E6000, and I'm also out of E6000. Fuck. Somebody did not plan this well, and that somebody was me. Whoopsies. We might have to go to the store. Do you think the dollar store has E6000? Do you? Do you think the dollar store has E6000, baby mans? Yeah. Yes, E6000 is amazing. It takes a while to dry. Because it's not, like, solid until, like, 10 minutes. And it's not fully cured until 3 days. Because it's got a 72-hour cure time. But it's like a flexible super glue. Someday I'm gonna get some little pet the pupper emotes, and we can pet the puppers all we want. But I find that specifically for the shoe part of feet paws, E6000 works better than hot glue because hot glue doesn't like to adhere to the bottom of the shoes as well as it does to EVA foam. And even then, like, how are these dirty? They're brand new. Anyway, but like, because when you walk, I mean, these shoes don't flex very well, but shoes, when you walk and you press, the shoe bends, right? So if you use hot glue is somewhat flexible, but when it's dry, it's pretty stiff. Especially in smaller portions. So it's more likely to just detach rather than flex with the shoe. E6000, being a flexible super glue essentially, is very sturdy and does adhere well to the shoe, and also flexes with it, unlike regular super glue. The other thing is regular super glue will eat a hole through EVA. And most other foams. It just goes straight through it. Whatever the chemical reaction is, I don't know, but it will eat foam. E6000 does not eat foam, and it's fucking amazing. I love it. So definitely a big recommend on the E6000 if it's something that you can manage to deal with having to wait 3 days for it to dry, you know? Definitely a good thing. But since I don't have any on hand at the moment, we're just gonna score up our feet and then probably call it good for today. Cause whoopsie, my bad. That was a mistake on my part. I did not mean to forget to buy E6000. I have been out of it for literal months at this point and just haven't thought about it because that's how rarely I use it. This is literally the only part in a fursuit that I normally use E6000 on. And it's solely because of the shoes. Because like around the edges here, the fur is going to get hot glued on. So, right. So I actually, personally, my feet for my Digi and my Planty are shaped exactly the same. The difference is just the length of the foot. Well, I guess the scale, really. But overall, the plantigrade are a little bit shorter in foot length because if you have a foot small like mine, it sticks out really long. It makes it look like you got clown shoes. Not great. I've seen some people do, depending on like what kind of look you're going for, like if you're going for like the Renaissance fair, like very slim fit, like form-fitting stuff, I've seen some people take heels and they cut off the back of the heel and they use that as the Digi pattern. I've also seen some people create the illusion. Stop licking the fur! You don't need to lick the fabric. I've seen some people create the illusion by having a diagonal line that goes up the foot and leaving that fur all long and fluffy while keeping the rest of it short. So then it looks like the foot is actually angled this way and just has a lot of fluffy fur off the back. I've seen people do that specifically for Clydesdale suits because it works really well with Clydesdale suits. But all of my Digi padding for Digidegrade suits, I do as foam padding in the bodysuits separate from the feet paws. I know Spilt Grape Soda and I want to say Nefertiti. I don't know if Nefertiti has the pattern. Spilt Grape Soda does have a feet paw pattern. They are paid for patterns. They have plantigrade and Digidegrade versions. So they're great if you don't have a foot paw pattern and you want to find one to use. They have a very good foot shape if it's something you like. But their Digipaw pattern comes up really tall and has like a curve on the back of it to simulate that angulation of the ankle. Yeah, I say they should be pretty easy to find. They're definitely some of the more popular makers in the fandom, so you'll find posts from them, about them, all that good stuff. There we go, that's better. See, this is what I really want, is these little triangle sections that look like little pock marks, because that creates a really good grip spot. I went around, I got distracted and only went around half of this one. The place I ordered fabric from, Big Z Fabrics. They have a lot of good variety in fabrics for like your specialty materials. If you're ever looking for fur, though, I recommend Fursuit Supplies or Howl Fabrics. They both have really good furs. Big Z fur is kind of hit or miss, but the rest of their fabrics are great. I have used some of Big Z's fur. In fact, actually, I have a swatch of some Big Z fur. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm a liar. I'm a liar, I guess. I had swatches. I don't know where I put them. Oh, well. Well, now I'm really wondering where I put my swatches. Oh, well. I usually use, like, all the furs I have on this guy are Howl and Fursuit Supplies. Specifically, the silvery gray is Howl, the dark gray is Howl, the medium gray is Fursuit Supplies, and the white I don't know whose white it is. Who are you? I want to say it's also Howl, but they're both really good, so it doesn't matter. But they're definitely good places for, yeah. They're both really good for furs, and they're fairly cheap on the whole. Like, a lot of fur companies are based overseas, so they tend to be pretty expensive, especially when you deal with the shipping and tariffs. But as far as US based, they're both really good, and then you just got to deal with regular shipping, which is still pretty expensive because shipping's always expensive. Like, I usually order about 10 or so yards at a time of fabric, because I'm usually ordering for multiple commissions at once, and I still spend about $80 per order just on shipping. So it's definitely not cheap to ship fur fabric, specifically. But it's just not cheap to ship fabric in general. I miss Joann's, man. Joann's fur was crap, but the rest of their fabrics were good. I still have some of their paw print pattern fabric from before they closed. Joann's was also relatively overpriced, but, you know, they had coupons and convenience, so I don't mind. I was willing to pay the overpriced prices. It was especially great when they had, like, oh, 60% off all fabric, and then I'd go in and I'd buy an entire bolt of fabric for, like, $40. That was a deal. And it was also fun, too, because I go to, like, their scrap section, their remnants, and if there was anything that piqued my interest, I'd buy it and use it in a pre-made. Because, like, my pre-mades are what I especially do, like, funky stuff with, because I don't have to worry about, like, seeing, does the client like this, you know, like, do they want to use a weird material, do they want to deal with it, do I even know if it's gonna work, you know, like, it's fine for it to be trial and error and not work out if it's a pre-made, you know. If it's a commission, it's not fine, it needs to work out, and it needs to be good. So I usually do, like, all my funky fabrics and stuff like that on either personal suits or pre-mades. And then once when I know if it'll work, it's something I usually offer. Yeah, those coupons were great. We don't have too much for local fabric shops around here. Like, we do have a couple. Like, if we're talking, like, local and not, like, Michael's or something like that. But they all just sell cotton fabric. They're all quilt shops. So it's like they have cotton fabric and they have batting, and that's it. And it's like, I need fancy shit. And the closest place I can go is down by Detroit, which is kind of far from me. It's a couple-hour drive. So, you know, it is what it is. But, and of course, we're beaten up by ads again. Ads. That's alright, that's alright. I'm so worried I'm going to stab myself with the box cutter again. The last time I got stabbed by a box cutter, I was in the hospital. Yee! Tons of rolls and skeins or whatever that they call them. Fancy with soap. Yep. Yep. That's exactly how it goes. It's very hard. It's very hard to find fabrics. This is a personal project. I'm trying to get it done in time for MCFC in Detroit. It's a con I go to every year, so I figured, why not try to get it done in time for my local con. I say local, it's 3 hours from me. But this is a set of twin suits. I haven't had a chance to do twin suits, and there's a lot of things on these suits in particular that are new. Because like I was saying with the pre-mades and stuff, I usually do weird stuff with them to try them out and see how well they work, if I can do them, before I offer them as an option for like commission suits, right? So before I was able to do... So a twin suit, a lot of people... It's a set of twins. So there's actually this guy, right? And then there's this guy. And they've got pretty much the same palette. They've got the same colors, just slightly different patterns, pretty much, is the difference. So like this guy's got a lot more of the darker color. He's actually going to be mostly white. So it's actually just suits for 2 people. So they look similar, but they're different. So like the lighter one, the one that the reference sheet is up for, is for me. And the darker one that has the white ears is actually for my fiance, which, if I use my brain hole, I can pull up that reference sheet too. Come here, browse, desktop, scrolling. This is the wrong desktop, stupid OneDrive. I hate OneDrive. There we go, this guy. Whoop! And the image is huge again because I make really... I think it's like 18 by 22 inches. I make really big reference sheets because I'd rather be able to do all the tiny details. Zoom in. But yeah, so we can kind of sit here and do a little bit of a compare and contrast with these little reference sheets real quick. So like overall, they're pretty much the same. But they just have like a slightly different color pattern. They are based off the RK800 and RK900 from Detroit Become Human, because I got a little obsessed. So that's what we're doing now. So this one over here will be my fiance's suit, and this one is my suit, and we will go suiting together at the FurCon, which will be fun. He doesn't have a suit yet, and he doesn't have a fursona, because he doesn't consider himself a furry, but I was like, I'm making you a fursuit, so that's what we're doing. Yes! Yes! I'm glad that that's what came to mind when you saw them, because I was like, I need to make it. I know. I was just playing, so yesterday I was streaming, and I was playing an old SpongeBob game, and I can't believe they didn't get Clancy Brown for Mr. Krabs in the game. I was like, that is not Mr. Krabs. That is an imposter. That is a skinwalker. But, I love it. It's great. But yeah, so, I can show you. You're gonna love this. Hold on. You're gonna love this. We have, so, one of their features that I haven't done in a suit before, which is going to take me a minute because I don't know where I put the battery packs. Uh-oh. Spaghetti. Wait, is your battery pack in you? Don't worry, his battery pack is in him. Because I was smart and used 2 whole brain cells. Let me open up a zipper real quick. There we go. So as you can see, we do have some electronics in this suit. Just a couple. Just a couple electronics in this suit. So if I turn this light off. Right? And it changes! And then because I had a 4th option, we also have Rainbow Gamer mode. So it doesn't show up on camera really well, but we have our RGB gamer mode going on here. We've got Scary Red mode. We got Yellow, which I might have to change the tint on because it's looking a little greenish. And And of course we got blue. So, and it does do the little cycle ring all the way around. That was a pain in my butt. I didn't actually personally do the coding for it. I got help from my father because I don't know how to code, so I'm still learning. But we figured it out and we got it to do that. And then I just had to figure out how to do all of the wiring and soldering myself. And I've never done electronics in a suit before. Well, that's not true. I've done a mouth fan, but not like real electronics. So we do have a little box on the inside of his face that holds the Arduino. Well, this pocket right here is the battery pack. And then above it, this box with the red light holds the Arduino, the computer that does all the stuff. And then the LEDs are actually fully removable. How do I stay cool? You don't. I just die. Some people like mouth fans, like I mentioned. People will put a fan in the mouth of the fursuit that blows on them. Some people wear necklace fans that they then shove into the mouth of their fursuit every now and then whenever they get too hot. I know I have a few friends that actually use cooling vests, and they'll wear that underneath their suits to stay cold. Hi, baby mans. Oh, I should unplug him before he runs out of battery. There we go. And then I find that finger escapes actually help a lot. A lot of times when I'm at a con, if I start getting too hot in suit, I'll just stick my little fingies out. And for some reason that helps so much. Like, you wouldn't believe. But generally speaking, you just kind of get hot in suit. On average, a fursuit head is about 10 degrees warmer than the ambient air temperature. So if it's 70 degrees in your house, it will be 80 degrees inside your suit. Which is why a lot of cons have headless lounges. So you can go in, take your head off, have some water, sit down. Because a lot of people don't like breaking the magic. So, oh my god, the hot glue gun was on this whole time. I didn't know I plugged it in. So a lot of people don't like breaking the magic. So they will only take their head off in a fursuit lounge. Which is not good practice. We are not Disney. We can take our heads off. It will be okay. If you need to take your head off so you don't have heat stroke, please take your head off. It will be okay. The children will not be traumatized in the Marriott. It will be okay. It's a Marriott. Or a Hyatt or a whatever. You know, whatever hotel is the main hotel. Oh, yes. That, I believe, is actually Mugiwara. If I remember correctly, because I know who makes that suit. There's a lot of people who have done the removable face masks now because of what they did with their Scully suit. I saw one recently that was like a cat, and then it was the Scully. But yeah, yes. So like I said, there's a lot of it's very tight knit. Once when you know something, it's like everybody knows that person. Which, granted, you know, with the smaller people, might be like, oh, I don't know who that is because they're a bit more local. But once when people catch on to something and it catches on, it's very art-based community, right? So if someone does something new or different, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Like, and then, of course, you know, people are getting called out and shit all the time for random bullshit. But you can't be tight-knit without a little bit of drama. But, yeah, so, as far as staying cool in suit, I just don't. I used to take my reindeer suit. I had a suit called Alfie. Yeah, those seem to be very popular. Kimono Mimis seem to be really popular lately. It's not my kind of style, but it is I can see why it's popular, because it's very anime adjacent in style. I do like the way realistic suits look. I love the way realistic suits look. I just would never have one myself for multiple reasons. One being the whole being blind thing. And then a lot of realistic suits are airbrushed. The kimonos also tend to be very airbrushed, which I personally hate because you have to you have to be very careful cleaning them. A lot of times you can't wash them. You have to, like, surface pat to clean, and that's it. If it gets stained, it gets stained. which sucks. And if you do wash them, you know, thoroughly, then they have to be re-airbrushed every couple years, you know? So it's like, again, it's one of those things where it's a give and take. Do you mind having a suit that's really difficult to clean if it looks cool, you know? I am a lazy motherfucker, and I would rather have a suit that can be clean. You could dry clean a fursuit. I'm pretty sure you can really dry clean anything. But it also depends on the suit. Like I said, like if it's airbrush, if it has electronics in it that can't be taken out, it might depend. The issue with dry cleaning is if they use any heat treatments. So you can't, like, steam a fursuit. But you should be able to do dry cleaning on a fursuit. If they know what they're doing with the fabrics, the materials that are there. Because, like, you can steam foam. Foam will be fine. You can do whatever you want with foam. What matters is that the suit dries properly. That's usually the biggest thing, right? Is that you don't wash parts that can't get wet, and that parts that do get wet dry within a reasonable amount of time. So a lot of people, you can't put it in the dryer because heat will damage the fur. But you can air dry it with a box fan, and that usually dries it within a day or two, which is a reasonable amount of time. Exactly, moldy, which is why I make all the stuffing and stuff in the feet paws and the tails and everything else as removable as possible, because then there's less stuff to hold mold. As far as hair, there's a lot of ways to do hair. There's so many ways to do hair. On Patch, my coyote persona, he has yarn hair. So it's literally just strands of yarn for his hair tuft. For the twins, we have fur scraps that have been brushed on the back side, so both sides of the fabric are now furry. And then styled, I specifically stitched him in a way to where it would get that nice little curl on top of his head. Even when you flop him around a bit, he still kind of has that little curl of hair, which turned out really nice, because I was worried that the curl wouldn't stay. I feel like that's a very iconic part of the character model that needs to stay. And he's dead now. I've killed Connor. There we go. You could also do what's called wefting, which is where you take synthetic hairs or even real hair, but most people, you know, for fursuits obviously do synthetic hair. And they sew it on their sewing machine together, so it creates what's called a weft. And then you'll have really, really long hair. Some people will take cosplay wigs, and they will cut it to the pattern piece that they need, and then stitch that in, and then you have wig hair, which is pretty much the same thing as wefting, but not as difficult to do and not as dense usually. Some people will take long strips of fur fabric. So the fur that I have is 1-inch fur. You can buy monster fur, which is 4 inches, so it's fur that's this long. And some people might back brush that or stitch 2 pieces together and make long strands to get like long chunks that look like hair. There's so many ways to do hair. You can do very like classic anime style where you carve foam into the shape of like hair spikes or a mohawk and then put fur over top of that so it looks like a mohawk. I do the Toblerone method for mohawks is what I call it. So I make a triangle pattern, right? So I know what my mohawk's going to look like. And I decide how tall I want it to be. Whatever, by that tilt. So if this line is 4 inches, I make it 4 inches tall. And I make the shape that I want. And then the bottom has to be however wide I need it to be to get that height that I want. And I make the bottom fleece, these 2 sides fur, and then I stuff it with polyfill. And stitch it onto the suit. And bam! Mohawk. Yarn tail for a Cheshire cat, and it went so awful because I didn't know how to make the base. Yeah, you kind of have to know how to crochet to make a yarn tail, ironically enough. A lot of people will make a chain, and then they'll kind of like tie knots. They'll loop the yarn through and tie them in knots, and then they'll brush out the yarn. Which honestly is not a very good practice. The issue with yarn tails is, first off, they're tedious as fuck. Second, when you brush yarn, usually the staple length for yarn is a minimum of 2 inches. So when you brush yarn, the only thing that's actually holding it together is the twist in it. So when you're brushing it, you're untwisting it, and when you get past the average staple length, so if you're trying to make it go to be 4 inches and the average staple length is 2, you're not going to have 4 inches. You're going to have 2, and you're going to lose the last 2 inches of your yarn entirely. It's just, yarn is funky like that. So it does work, but it doesn't work as well as if you were to just buy longer pile fur and stitch it together and make a tail, honestly. It's not as durable, too, because if you snag it on something, suddenly it gets torn, ripped, it's awful. It's more likely to snag than a fur tail would. Yeah. More questions! Yes. What is the question, my child? The ads are coming. Hurry. Hurry before the ads get us. You know, I don't have the option to snooze the ad because I waited too long. I'm really bad at streaming. How to make an articulated tail from, like, foam pieces. Okay, so those I am bad at. But if you're talking, like, actually articulating, like, pulling a string and having the tail move, suspended. So, ads. Damn it. Ads. Hold on. Ads. So, paper. Paper. Get out of here, plant. I know it. So if we go like this. I have a doodle. Sharky tails that don't go up like Jeff does, like his tail's more reminiscent of a husky to me. So, okay, I see. So you're just trying to look for a tail that kind of sticks upwards and doesn't sag, is what you're saying. Not necessarily one that moves. Because if we're talking about a hypermotion tail, I have a doodle for you. But if we're just talking about keeping the tail upright, that's even easier. So we could do both at once. We can have an upright tail that is also hypermotion. So for a hypermotion tail, right, what most people do is they'll do, like, the dotted line is the general shape we want, right? And then they'll do some sort of core, usually a 1-inch strip of foam or fabric. It just depends. A lot of people do fabric. And then they'll do evenly spaced blocks, so like circles, right? Down the tail for whatever that shape is. So if you need it to be this tall, it'll be a circle that's that tall that fits, you know, the shape you want. And that can create really good hypermotion. Another way to do it is you can simply draw out your tail shape, right? So, like, let's say we got a shark. You can draw out your tail shape on some foam, carve it to where you like it, and then if you want it to be hypermotion, you just evenly carve almost all the way through to the middle. Not all the way, but almost all the way. Little sections. Nefertiti does have a tutorial on this. For hypermotion and specifically for shark tails, because they do a lot of manakits. That's not a shark. That's also not a shark tail. It's close enough. I'm clearly not good at drawing sharks off the top of my head. Which is ironic because I do have Scrum. Hold on, where is my child? Scrum, where art thou? This is my child. His name is Scrum. And he is a shark guinea pig hybrid. So he is just a little guy, and he has no tail. He only has a butt. But he's just a little guy. I made him in college on a whim, and he has sat around since. I actually designed him in high school, but I crocheted him in college. But yeah, so you could 3D print. The issue with 3D printing is that you might be limited by the size of your printer. But it would probably be more secure, stable than a foam base would. But it depends. It depends on how good you are at modeling and what exactly you're going for. Personally, I am shit at modifying 3D models or making 3D models. So I would personally go for the foam core base. But that's just me. Another thing, too, is if you want it to angle upwards, I need another piece of paper. Come here, piece of paper. If you want your tail to angle upwards, right? So, like, let's say this is your tail. It sticks straight out, and the base attaches to your body like so. Gravity is going to pull this down. So what you're going to end up with, even though you have that flat base, is a tail that does that, right? Easiest way to fix that is to change the angle of your base. You can't see shit I'm doing. It's dark. So the easiest way to change that is to change the angle of the baseline. So if we change the angle to be tilted back, like so, then when it actually attaches to your body, it's going to try and be like that, right? But gravity still exists, so gravity is going to pull this down. So then we end up with a tail that is actually straight. So ultimately, just angle your tail higher than you actually want it, and when gravity makes it rest a little bit, it is going to... Which, with a 3D base, you probably wouldn't have as much of an issue with that. But with a foam base, because it squishes, you know, it will sag. Just a little bit. Usually by like a couple inches. So like a 5-degree tilt is usually... Like draw your tail how you want it to be, and then tilt it by 5 degrees and adjust your base. It's pretty much it. But also having the tail stick out like that is what will help it whip around a lot. Because I actually just did... these tails for the suits, right? And they have a silicone core. They wiggle pretty okay because they have the silicone cores in them. So if I were to wag them, they wag pretty good. They aren't the best at wagging though because they are completely vertical. So if I adjusted the base so that way they sat like this, they would wag even better. Problem is, they don't sit like that. They sit like this. So the angle, it's actually not too heavy. So when I say silicone core, I don't mean that the entire tail is silicone. The silicone core is about this big around, and it tapers down to about, if I can find it, here. So if you've ever seen, have you ever seen the pup tails, like for pup gear? Do you know what I'm talking about? Not everybody knows about pup gear. It is those tails. It is the belt version of those tails. So it is just silicone dog tail, essentially, that I have flipped upside down and put inside of it. I could take them out because they're zippers, but it'd be a pain in my butt. So, yes, okay. That helps a lot, yeah. So it's essentially just one of those tails that I flipped upside down and put into the tail. You could also do it upright if I wanted the tails to be upright, and it would wag even better. But because I flipped it upside down, that hinders it, and the fact that the fabric is straight down also hinders it. To get a really good motion tail, you want it to stick out, right? It needs to stick up and out from the body. Straight down does not allow a lot of wag. Having it go at like an angle, more straight rather than vertical, helps with that wag a lot. Physics, that's why. So I didn't expect those to wag that well, but they do wag better than if they didn't have the silicone core. So better than nothing, which is something. But that's why I put them in these suits, because these suits are experiments. So the silicone cores were a new test for me to see if they would actually work well with what I know in fursuits, and if that's something I would be able to offer. So now I can, because now I know the limitations. Oh my god. They would know. Believe it or not, they would know. And everybody would know instantly. I went to MFF in 2023. Out on the streets of Chicago, there was in fact someone wearing one of the not belt. And I'm like, oh. And that was also the first time I ever saw anyone in full pup gear. And I was like, that's interesting to do out in public. Okay. Because, like, I'm not one who's against pup hoods or anything. Like, I think pup hoods are great. I even think the tails are great. But I do not think you should have a plug-in out in public at any given time. That's a bit different than a belt. To be fair, this was at, like, 10 p.m., but it's also still on the public streets of Chicago, not in the hotel room. You know? Like... Right. So they sit really low. Because, like, that's the hard part, is getting tail placement proper, because where you really want your tail to sit is actually higher than most people will sit them. On a fursuit, tails usually sit at either at or just above your waistline where your pants sit, because obviously you're going to be wearing a belt to wear the tail. Unless you're a freak. Anyway. Chunk of foam. I thought it was a spider on my arm. It was a chunk of foam. But yeah, so. And then, of course, that falls into the anatomy of, well, if you're doing digi padding, then you're doing thigh padding, possibly even butt padding. Like, for me, I will probably have butt padding, because I do not have ass cheeks. They don't exist. So I have to create the curve of the leg somehow, which means I have to have an extra piece of padding. Which also means my belt has to physically sit higher to accommodate for that padding. Which is dumb. But it is what it is. My friend was trying to get us to go to this club in Seattle. The Uber driver accidentally took us to a... Oh! Well, that definitely sounds like an adventure. I can't say that I've ever accidentally encountered... well, I mean, I guess I did accidentally encounter in Chicago, but it was a fur con, so it was kind of to be expected. You're going to encounter people in weird gear, especially at 10 o'clock at night, but... Yes! So the electric carvers do work well for upholstery foam. I don't use one myself, but that should be just because I haven't bothered to buy one. I have 1-inch foam for my upholstery foam, so I just use a pair of big scissors. It works fine. It works perfect, even. Like, I don't... Meh. It depends on what method you're using for your foam. And if you're buying, like, 3-inch versus, like, 1-inch, because, like, obviously a pair of scissors isn't going to get through 3-inch foam very easily, because it's thick. But I only use 1-inch, so. Scissors work fine for me. But yes, the carvers will work. I also find that the pill shavers for your clothes, the little things that are supposed to take all those little fuzzies off your clothes, those work amazing for smoothing out the surfaces of your fursuit head. I'd recommend buying a nicer one that has better blades than the cheap ones, because it will go faster. But if you're just doing the one thing, there's no point in buying it at all. You can just smooth it out with scissors. Take the extra time to actually sit there and trim it nice. I'm lazy, though, and if I can get a machine to do it for me, I will. That's not true. Otherwise, I'd be into AI. I don't like using AI for pretty much anything. Because I'm very much the kind of person who's like, well, if I can do it myself, I will, you know? Like, if I could make a set of shoes, I would physically cobble a pair of shoes and put them into a fursuit, rather than buy a pair of shoes if I could. But I don't know how to cobble, and I can't get into cobbling, so I'm not going to. Yeah, that seems to be the very common thing, is like you go out somewhere and you're like, ooh, interesting, and everybody around you is like, no, why are we here? Which is kind of part of the appeal for me for a lot of the 18 plus furry cons, is they do have the adult panels. So you get to kind of like go over, like last year there was a Shibari panel, which ended up being a bit of a loss because there were so many people that showed up, there wasn't enough ropes to actually have everybody learn. So instead I had a little tiny 8-foot rope that I couldn't do anything with. So I just started crocheting with it and teaching people how to crochet in the middle of the ship art panel. But it was still fun. It was still fun overall. And Hubbard's totally made my day and his toes down for drag. Okay. So he's been learning stuff, but like, should we look into the silicone whatever stuff or like foam pads, which is more comfortable? So, right. Like I get that. Like it's definitely, it can be a sensitive topic for people, which I don't personally get why people are sensitive about it, but I guess it's just, you know, society is that way. So, it depends. I feel like silicone, the silicone takes a bit more like care. Like a lot of times you have to like put baby powder on it because it can get sticky and oily. But I'd argue that they're both pretty much the same as far as warmth goes for any sort of any sort of padding. The silicone is heavier though. Foam will be a lot lighter, a lot easier to wear. Whereas if he's got any sort of foam padding, that's heavy, you know. So that's really the only big thing. But it would be more realistic in look and texture than foam padding would be. So it depends on where he's trying to go. Is he trying to go for a bit more of a realistic look, or is he trying to go for the exaggerated kind of drag, you know? But yes, exactly. I kind of just vibe with whatever I got, you know, and I had what is essentially giant yarn in my hands, so I was crocheting. He's less so embarrassed about it, but I don't think it's like right. So then I would recommend going for some smaller silicone ones then, if he's going for a bit more of like a realistic look. Which isn't to say, which that's the thing too, the silicone ones are also more expensive. So you could start off with some cheaper, small foam ones and see how he feels about it, if he likes it. And if it's something that he wants to do a lot more and thinks that he would enjoy the silicone ones a lot more, then you could invest in the silicone ones. Because they're probably going to run you like $80 a pair for some small ones. Maybe even more. Probably closer to $150 depending. I don't actually know how much they go for. Because it depends on who you're ordering from and stuff like that. And of course, what kind of padding we're looking for. I know a bit more about the opposite direction of padding as far as that goes. I don't know too much about feminizing padding. I do some in my fursuits occasionally, but that's all foam because it's not supposed to look exactly like it. It's supposed to give essence of boobage or butt or whatever may have you, you know. Kind of like cartoon characters, right? You know, like how they make them curvy. Like I just make the fursuit curvy. Some people ask for that, and I don't mind. I'm not against it. As long as you're an adult, I don't care what you get on your suit. I do take NSFW suit commissions every now and then. I get asked pretty regularly for NSFW suit commissions, but very rarely does anybody actually follow through. Never gotten to explore these verses of like right, like that's definitely the hard thing, is like finding people and being able to actually experience stuff like that. And a lot of times you really do just have to dig for it. Yeah. So the cool thing is that furry in particular is a very LGBT heavy space. I think the statistics is something along the lines of, damn it, ads. Ads. We'll get back to it when the ads are done then, I guess. We'll get back to our conversation. Right. There. It's okay. If I'd noticed, I could have paused them. No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry about it. but it made me so happy and cry. Right. Did I do this one? I did. Did I do all of them? I did. Wait. Alright, so. Hello, my son. Can I help you? I see you brought your toys in. I see you brought your toys in here. Oh, big stretch. Hello. Hello. Stinky baby. Stinky baby. Good Lord. So, a baby man has an ear infection, and he's been getting the ear drops for it. And, oh my God, it stinks. Back it up, please. I love you. He's gotta emphasize that. Yeah. That's kind of how my fiance is as well. He's supportive, but you could argue that he's raised more old school, so a lot of it's new to him by like a long shot. So it's a big learning curve and stuff like that. And like he doesn't want to step on toes or anything is the biggest worry, you know. But don't worry, he's getting all the lovings. But yeah, so like I think the statistics is something around like 60% of furries identify as some form of LGBT. Which actually, if you're interested, on YouTube for completely free, there is a documentary called The Fandom by Y2 Coyote, I think it is. I forget who made it, but if you search up The Fandom documentary, it will come up. It's got a little cat with a top hat. And they did an amazing job going over like the history of furries, the general topic of furries, the way like so media portrays them versus what they actually do, fur cons. Like it goes over pretty much all of it. And it's a very good intro to the furry community and stuff like that. And they have a couple other smaller like docu-series where they go over other stuff. But that I loved that documentary. It's such a good documentary. Yes, and it's more old school documentary, right? It's not like modern like HBO documentaries where they're just trying to be dramatic over nothing for the sake of being dramatic, you know. It's interviews with people and like explaining the topic and actually like real science and statistics, and they like show stuff. The largest FurCon. Yes. So the one that just happened in California was their theme was airplane this year. That is pennies in comparison. So the biggest FurCon is usually a toss-up between Anthrocon and MFF, but for the last couple of years it has been Anthrocon in Pittsburgh. And I think this year they got around 20,000 people to attend. Right, and that's what people do in general. You know, people judge things that they don't know, which is ironic, but people do that. So I like to go around and like to explain and be like, oh, hey, I actually know about the thing. Let me info dump on you. And then a lot of times they change tune by the end of it when they do know. You know, people are just scared of things they don't know. But yes, Anthrocon is the biggest in the world, I believe. If I am correct. And this last year they did a little over 20,000. MFF, when I went, was the world record breaker with 16,000 only like 3 years ago. So the cons are blowing up quite a bit because furry as a topic is getting very popular in the mainstream. So a lot of people are going to cons, and cons themselves are getting very popular in the furry community. They didn't used to be a thing that everybody wanted to go to. It was just something that some people went to, you know? Kind of like how anime cons went, you know? It used to just be people liked anime, they might like the card games, whatever. And then the anime cons blew up, and now you have the massive anime cons, the massive gaming cons. Which actually, furry started out from sci-fi cons. And cosplay competitions and stuff like that. Like, it's very interesting. I did get to meet, in person at MFF, who are considered the fathers of the furry fandom, which they do go over in that documentary. Unfortunately, one of them did pass away shortly after. a couple months into 2024. He passed away from cancer, I believe, which was very sad, and we miss him very much. But his husband's still alive, I think. I hope. I feel like I would have heard about it if he wasn't, and I'd be very worried and sad. But they are essentially like the fathers of furry. And I have met Uncle Kage. He is the chairman of Anthrocon, and another one of the, I guess you could say, original furries. He wasn't from the very, very beginning, but pretty much close. He's been running Anthrocon for many, many years now. But he goes to MCFC every year. So I have had a chance to actually meet him. And I got extremely, like, I have a couple stories of my encounters with Uncle Kage. Yes, dude, that's fucking dope! I went to a anime con recently to vend, and someone was selling Yaya Han stuff, and someone was like, oh, I got a Yaya Han thing, and I was like, oh my god, you got a Yaya Han? They're like, I don't even know who that is. I'm like, you don't even know how big she is. She's like the Uncle Kage of anime. It's very interesting to me. So I have a couple experiences with Uncle Kage. So he comes to MCFC, and he usually does what he calls Uncle Kage Story Hour, right? Where he comes and he tells a story about his time hosting, running Anthrocon. And it's usually comedy, it's funny shit, it's whatever. And he'll usually do a panel with his friends, and they'll do a comedy show or whatever, and it's great, it's fun, it's a whole lot of laughs. I went to that comedy panel with his friends, and they were sitting there talking about, if anybody wants to run across the street and grab some orange juice, we would like to make some screwdrivers. So I, realizing we have an entire gallon of orange juice upstairs in our hotel room, raised my hand, because we're in a theater. It's like a lecture hall. So I, the good student, raised my hand, and they're like, Uncle Kage's like, yes. I'm like, would Sunny D work? And they go, I guess? And I'm like, I'll be right back. After I get confirmation from my friends, I proceed to sprint up 6 flights of stairs, because if you know anything about cons, it's that elevators take for fucking ever, and I was not wasting my time. So I got up there and I got the Sunny D. And I'm like, I thought there was 2 gallons of orange juice. There was not, but I was allowed to take the Sunny D. So I come sprinting back down with the half-drank Sunny D gallon. And I, huffing and puffing, I haven't run this much in my fucking life, and I had to sprint down the stairs and across the entire hotel to get back to the room. And I'm here. It only took me like 10 minutes, and they're like, oh, and they're back. And they're like, I hate to tell you, but we don't have any vodka. We had whipped cream vodka in the hotel room that we were trying to get rid of because my friend did not want it anymore. They'd had it for a while, and they were just like, I need it gone. So we were trying to drink it over the weekend, and I didn't bring it down because I thought they had some. So me, lungs burning, panting, I tell him, just put your Riesling in it, which one does not tell Kage to put his Riesling into Sunny D, because Uncle Kage values his Riesling more than his own life or anyone else's life. I say jokingly, I don't think that's actually true, but it's for the bit. So mind you, this man, who is old enough to be my father and then some, proceeds to get up from the desk and round the table. And I have never been that scared of an old man in my life. So I start backpedaling. I'm like, listen. Like, let me tell you something. And I'm like, I just sprinted up 6 flights of stairs for this Sunny D. And he goes, and sits back down. I almost got into a fist fight with Uncle Kage. Again, I doubt anything would have actually happened, but I was a little scared. And then I do have photos of this. Alkali, one of the friends, proceeded to, in fact, mix the Riesling with the Sunny D, which Uncle Kage was not a fan of, and even less a fan because Uncle Kage, being a chemist, he is actually a real scientist. That is his original calling. He's appalled by the fact that this man starts to put vodka and Sunny D into a Ziploc baggie and shake it around to mix it before downing that shit. Because alcohol will eat through plastic baggies, and it did. So that was experience number 1. That was the funny experience with Uncle Kage. That was only slightly terrifying. Experience number 2. I was in the elevator at the exact same con. I was in full suit. I was wearing Patches 2.0 suit. And I get in the elevator and it pressed down and it starts going up to the 8th floor. And I'm like, oh, that's the top floor. Who's getting on? Sure as shit, Uncle Kage and friends step into elevator. And I'm like, oh, it's the them. And, you know, a little starstruck, like, ooh, ah, and we're just kind of in silence. Me and my friend, him and his friend, riding all the way down to the ground floor. And Uncle Kage looks at me and he goes, is that crochet? And I'm, first off, he fucking knows the difference between crochet and knitting. He knows the difference. Yes. And I'm like, yes. And he goes, that is so cool. I think that might be a fandom first. And I'm like, I know for a fact I am not the first one to put crochet on a fursuit. I have seen many others do it. Even if I was the first, it wasn't by much. But the compliment still stands. And he thought my suit was cool. And he knows what crochet is. Ah. And I was very, very starstruck by that, not gonna lie. Like, that is a very high compliment in any regard. But those are my experiences with Uncle Kage in person. He's a very quirky fellow. And he's fun to listen to, not gonna lie. He tells a lot of good stories. You are so scrunkly, you need a brushing. But yeah, so odds are he will be at MCFC again this year, probably doing his comedy panels, I hope, because they're always fun. They're my favorite, and I need to take my fiance to see them, because they are hilarious. Oh, you want him to see? Yes, I will show him the neato LED thingies. You gotta move, baby mans. Back it up. Back it up. Back that ass up. You're in my way. Back it up. Good lord. I push him a foot backwards, he takes 2 steps forwards, the little shit. There we go. Which, since I am now at the end of what I can do with the suit until I get more glue, this will probably be the last thing I do for stream, and we'll call it good for the day. And then I should be back sometime next week, because I don't stream on the weekends. Just because all the family's home on the weekends, and I'm very loud when I stream, so I usually stream during the week a couple times, whenever the vibe hits. But we'll get this guy going. Let's see if I can't angle him better, so that way you can actually see the colors of the LED this time. But, Forrest, you're still in my way. Can I have the hand paw behind you, please? Blue! Look at him go! I might actually be able to change... Oh no, I guess you can see it pretty well. Let me turn down the brightness on the camera so you guys can actually see the LED functioning a little bit better. Configure video. That doesn't help at all. What does this do? I don't know. Sure. Wow. It's that Detroit dog. I love that. I love that. I'm glad you get dog off of it, because I was very worried that they looked kind of like cats. And then we got our yellow, which is also not showing up very well. We got our red. And we got our rainbow, because we had a 4th option. And they do, both suits do have the LEDs. We do have the LEDs in both of them. So I can actually bring this guy over. And let me get his stuff. Oh, he's not plugged into a battery, though. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? And he doesn't have a cord in him right now. Well, I can't make him light up because I don't know where his cord's at. But he does. I promise he does. Very good doggos. I don't know. I feel like they look like a little bit like cats. I was going for sable shepherds. Really just German Shepherds, because I felt like that fit, considering the RK-800 being a police investigative android and the 900 being a military android. You know, I figured that fit, you know, because they're pretty common in both fields. So I was like, they're going to be German Shepherds, and we're just going to kind of go with Sable, I guess, which they don't really have the patterns of Sable, because I based the reference sheet off the suits, so they would look like the characters, but... yeah, so we got the Grey Boys, and they're so cute. And they're existing, and we're excited. We're debating on how to name the suits. Yeah, so it's a battery pack that plugs into an Arduino, and the Arduino has a I need to do some cleanup around his eyeballs. He's got a little bit of extra hot glue there. The battery pack has the Arduino has a component that does radio frequency channels, so it connects via 4 channels, and then each channel changes the light colors. So it's essentially like a key fob for your car. There's 4 buttons, and they each do different things over the radio frequency. So actually, I could tell you. I have a button in each of these fingers set for my my specific hands, because I have little baby hands. And then the receivers are in the back of the paw, and they're all waterproofed because I can't take them out, unfortunately. There was no good way for me to make them removable for cleaning. So they're all waterproofed and permanently installed, but I just have, you know... and I don't really have to move my fingers that much, but... yeah, they're in the fingers. And then I have the finger escapes, which made it so much harder to install the buttons. It was such a pain in the ass. Oh, it took me... I spent almost an entire month just doing the LED work, because I've never done LEDs before. I spent 6 months planning the LEDs. 6 months planning them. But they exist. You're a good boy. Not the ads! No! I'm actually... well, I have him right here. I'm going to clean him up a little bit. Because I definitely rushed these guys. Just a tad. Ads are so long. There we go. What's your other eye? There we go. No more ads. Yay. I am willing to admit, I did rush these suits a bit. So there's definitely some parts of them that I'm not a big fan of, but you know. Yay, we're back! Okay. See, it told me the ads were done. But I did rush these suits a little bit making them, because I'm trying to get them both done in time for MCFC, which is it's Valentine's weekend. So we have 38 days to finish the entire full suits. And we still have to do the feet paws and the body suits for both of them. Which, upside, are the easiest things to get done. Thank you, I appreciate it, but I know all of the mistakes that are in them. Like, there was a little bit of hot glue peeking out around his lining, which that was an easy fix, but it's just something I hadn't gotten to. And then I probably need to do a little bit more, like, tidy up trimming. But they're definitely a lot of fun. They are fully lined. Another thing. That's what I was talking about when the ads popped up. I have never done LEDs before. So this was a big learning curve for me. I spent about 6 months. The camera is still really freaking dark. I'm sorry. I had never done LEDs before, so what else did I change? There we go. Ah, that's what that's for. Okay. I had never... Brain hole. I spent 6 months just planning and learning, like, the basics. Because the only other electronic I had done was installing a mouth fan, which was essentially a computer fan hooked up to a battery pack. That was literally it, because the fans already came with USBs. All I had to do was shorten the wires, and that's easy enough to do, you know? The world's easiest solder job. But this, I had to actually solder onto a board, and code, and LEDs, and 3D print a very specific little thing for the LEDs to sit in, and I had to make sure that was transparent enough that it would, you know, not show the individual LEDs, but also still be bright. Like, there was a lot of planning that went into it, and it took 6 months of planning, and then a full month just to install the LEDs. I didn't even have the heads finished within a month. It took me like a good 6 weeks to finish the heads entirely. I just finished the necks, like the head and neck, for like a couple weeks ago. And then I did the hand paws at the same time because they have the buttons in them. So I had to kind of make the heads and the hand paws all at once, which was nuts. Yes, thank you. So this is like the one thing I have modeled these eye blanks myself and the little LED holders myself. Those are like 2 of the 3 whole things I've ever modeled entirely on my own. I have modified models I have found. But I did model that entirely on my own, which is saying something for someone who does not know 3D modeling in the slightest. So I made it slightly bigger than I knew how thick the head was going to be. Since I do 1-inch foam and I don't have particularly thick heads, I knew it was going to be about 1 inch right here. I think I made it about like 1 1/4 inches, because I knew the fur was going to bulk up. And then this is actually not even glued in. It's just that snug in the hole. So I really do need to glue that in, though. It's fine. And then I specifically made it have a little cap on it, on the back side, on the inside of the head, to hold the LED ring in. And the donut hole. And then that way you could take the lid off, take the LEDs out. The Arduino sits inside. I can pop it open again. The only downside, this is my personal suit, so I didn't care, but I did sew the zipper in facing upside down. So the zipper's on the inside of the head, not the outside, which was a whoopsie on my part. But if I get over here and show you. So we got our battery pack down here. This little case slides. The case is permanently installed in the head, but the Arduino can come out of the case, and I can fully pull out all of the wiring for cleaning when I go to clean the heads. And as you can see, my wiring is kind of shit, but to be fair, my first time wiring anything since I was like 8. And even then, I didn't really do the wiring on that. My dad did most of it, and I just did a little tiny bit of soldering. It's also a very snug fit. Hold on. And then, of course, they're all waterproofed just in case, because heads can get wet. You never know. Maybe I'll drop his noggin in a puddle or something. But yeah. So, yeah, I know zippers are the bane of my existence, and I do so many zippers. You would think I would know how to do them by now. Because this suit, so the head has a zipper in it. There isn't a pocket in the head, so that would be another zipper, but I did not put a pocket in the head. Yeah, my dad is very, very big into electronic computers and stuff like that. So back when Radio Shack existed, we got a couple of those, you know, learning kits that you make like a little tiny thing out of LEDs and whatnot. And I got to learn how to solder on a board. But then that was the only thing I ever did with soldering. And that was, you know, how old am I? Oh no. That was well over a decade ago, is my point. Yes. Back when the hex bugs were just popular and all that stuff. I got 2 hex bugs and they never worked. They just went in circles. I was mad about it. Hi, baby mans. But yeah. Yes! They are very, very cool, because they're essentially just a computer, right? And you can code and program them. I know a lot of people also use... Oh, what's the other one? Raspberry Pis, but they're more expensive. The Arduinos I have are actually the old V3 knockoffs. So I got a 3-pack for like 15 bucks. But... a Ring of Death. So I do actually... Oh, thank you. That's Baby Mans. His name is Forrest, but we call him Baby Mans. I do actually have a character... Hold on, I can bring him up. That is based on the Xbox Ring of Death. Because I was like, oh, I should make a Skull Dog. They're pretty much the same kind of deal. They both do the same thing for the most part. They're just different brands. And then, of course, they each have their different versions. Like, I used the Arduino Nano because I really wanted the teeny tiny one. A lot of people use the Uno, which is like this big. And I was like, that's not fitting. That's not going to be in my head. That will never fit. This guy. Oh. There we go. But yeah, so this is my Xbox Ring of Death Skulldog character that I have yet to make into a suit. In fact, I worry that I never will, so he is currently, I believe, available on my website as an Artistic Liberty suit. So you can commission a suit of this character and you would get to keep him type deal. It just means that I would get to make it how I want to make it. With the exception of like, oh, well, you need it to have a mouth fan or something like that, you know? Like, you want specific extras. But otherwise, like, the colors, the shapes, all that, that's up to me because it's Artistic Liberty. But yeah, so we've got a lot going on here. We got our Ring of Death in the eye. We've got some green toxic slime. We've got a lot of warning symbols. Like, he's just very much the something is dying kind of Skull Dog. And I thought he was really cool. But yeah. I have made so many ref sheets and characters over the years. Hi, baby mans. Can I help you? Okay. Yes. Yes. So, it'd be really fun. Personally, for him, because it's like the eye itself would be the Ring of Death, I think I would much rather use glow-in-the-dark paint or UV reactive paint. Yes, exactly. So they do sell furs that are UV reactive. In fact, I have some right over here because someone is buying them from me. I have some orange and I have some yellow on hand, which if I... Hold on, we'll make this shit real cool. I don't know how well it'll show up on camera, but we'll make this shit real cool. In the dark. Except now I can't see. Hold on, we got this. That's not the right door. That's not the right door. This is the right door. So they do glow under black light. But, so like we got this really nice neon yellow, the bright highlighter orange, all that good stuff. I did make a dragon pre-made a while ago. That had rainbow fur from Joann's on it. And unbeknownst to me, the rainbow fur was also very UV reactive, which was not the intention. But tell you what, when half that dragon glows under black light, it's so fucking cool. So like, yeah, I would get like the UV reactive yellow and like a UV reactive. They do make UV red. I don't... Well, they used to do the spring green, but from what I've heard, the spring green is not as good as it used to be. But Howl does a lot of UV reactive furs, and I believe Big Z does as well, if I remember right. But then it's like I could just play with, like, UV reactive paints and stuff for the eye mesh and all that. Yeah. Yes, we could. You're so needy. You're such a needy baby. But yeah, so it's a heck of a lot of fun, and there's always stuff to do. Yes! That sounds fun. That sounds dope. Oh, I'm getting messaged. I have to go. Things are happening now because it's late. I honestly did not plan on streaming this long. I planned on streaming for like half an hour, and then you showed up and I got excited. So, thank you for that. It was going to be a really boring day otherwise. Yeah. Hopefully I'll catch you on one of my later streams. No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. It made me get stuff done. But hopefully I'll see you on the later streams. So we're going to hopefully pop over to a raid. Let's see. Does anybody I know be on? Not really. Who's doing what? Bum, 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 bum. Lots of 3D printers. Ooh. What am I looking at? Ooh. We do have some crochet. We do like some crochet on this channel, I tell you what. I think we're going to go see what this stitchery is doing. What are we doing over here? What are you doing over here? I don't know what's happening. Oh! Guys, we're rating this. I don't know what it is, but we're rating it. We don't get a choice anymore. But bye! I will see you guys the next time I stream. Maybe on Monday. Probably not. I have an appointment on Monday. Probably on Tuesday then. I might stream on Tuesday. Who knows? We'll find out. Bye, guys.